Hi everyone, it's Lisa. Thank you for joining me today. In today's video, I'm going to be making two cards and I'm going to be working with this stamp set from the Stamps of Life called Iced Coffee to Stamp. And it has these two coffee stamps. It also has a coffee holder that you can stamp onto the one right above it, the coffee cup right above it. And then it also has a heart, a sun, and some sentiments. Coffee is always a good idea. Life begins after coffee. And I'm not a coffee person. I don't drink coffee. In fact, I've never even tasted coffee in my entire life. But when I saw this set, I loved it. And the reason I loved it is because if you look at that coffee on the right hand side, it reminds me of a milkshake or an icy, and I am all about ice cream, so I loved it. So I'm actually going to be making two cards with this set. One of my cards is going to be coffee, and then the second card I'm going to turn them into some milkshakes. I'm also going to be using this alphabet set and number set. This is a stamp set also from the Stamps of Life. It is called Letters for Letter Tray and it is also brand new. I will be using this on one of my cards. It does have all of the alphabet as well as the numbers 0 through 9 as well as some symbols. So here's a little peek at the cards that I'm going to be making in this video with you today. So once again, if you're not already a subscriber, please click that subscribe button and turn on your bell notifications so that you'll be notified every time I release a new video. And please consider liking this video because it does help in YouTube. It just lets more people see this video. So let's go ahead and get started with my first card. So I'm starting out by taking a piece of Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth cardstock and I'm inking up one of the coffee stamps using my Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and I'm going to stamp this down. And I'm using that ink and paper because I'm specifically going to be doing some alcohol marker coloring with my Copic markers. So after I stamp this coffee cup stamp, I'm going to take the coffee cup sleeve and I'm going to ink that up and stamp it down. Notice that I'm stamping it towards the top of that coffee cup because if you stamp it any further down, it's not going to fit and you'll find that the sleeve actually will extend beyond the edges of your coffee cup, because I tried that initially and I had to redo it. So I just wanted to give you a little heads up. So in order to get those lines to match up perfectly, just make sure you stamp up a little bit higher. And then I also stamped out the heart inside of that coffee cup. So here I'm just taking some of my browns. I'm taking E21, E23, E25, and E27. And I'm just coloring this up. So I start with the darks on the side. So the E27 is on the very edge, and then followed by the E25, E23, and then E21 in the middle. And I'm also going to be putting some of that brown on the whipped cream up there at the top. I just wanted it to look a little bit toasted, if that's what you would call it, but I wanted to give it a little brown appearance. So I started out with some dark and then just coming in with some of my lighter colors for the whipped cream. So I'm using E50, E51, E21, and E23, and all of these colors will be listed down below. I didn't want to leave it completely white. I definitely wanted to have some color on there just because it adds more contrast and definition. So I'm using some of my B's, the B0000 and the B00 for the actual plastic part of that cup. Again, I did not want to just leave it clear. I wanted to add some color to it. And then I'm going to use my R52 and R55 to color the heart. So some pinks there for the heart. And then I'm going to be using my greens. I wanted to use like a mint green for the sleeve, the coffee sleeve. So I'm using G20, G40, and G12 for that. And I found this particular coffee stamp the easiest for me to color. I do color up the other stamp with the actual iced coffee with the ice cubes in it. I found it a little bit harder for me personally to color, but I will show you the coloring here soon. I do also use pink for the straw. Just wanted to stick with some of the same colors that were already in that particular coffee cup. So it matches the same pink that was in the heart. So here is the other coffee. I'm using the darks just along the side, and I'll just let you kind of watch the coloring. I did bring in some of the lighter color there. Notice that I'm not actually coloring the ice cubes. I initially colored this out and was just kind of experimenting with it off camera, and I had colored the ice cubes brown, which was the same color as the actual coffee, which I didn't particularly like. So in this particular, for this particular stamp, I am doing a little bit differently and leaving the ice cubes white, and I'll come back in later and color those up with a lighter brown. So here I'm just using a tip method to get a better blend, just taking the darker color and the lighter color. So what I do is I just take my lighter marker, put it on the tip of the darker color. In that case, the E21 is the lighter marker. I'm putting it on the tip of the E23 just to bring some of that ink onto the tip of the lighter marker and then coloring it up. It just helps with the blend because I wasn't able to get a very good blend without using that method. So you've probably seen me do that sometimes in the past on my videos. So I do come in and just go over it a little bit more with some more of those browns. I do want to leave some of the light spots there, so you can see how I'm coloring that up, just leaving some of the lighter browns there on the left, coloring a little bit more darks there at the bottom. Again, all these colors will be listed below. I'll also have these colors listed in my blog, so if you want to use the same colors as me, you'll be able to go and see what colors I've used. Now I'm using the same B colors as I did in the previous coffee cup. Okay, so here's where I'm coloring up the ice cubes. I used C1 to put a base down. And then I colored my E23 in the top left-hand corner of some of those, in the top right-hand corner of others. Come in with my E21 and then came back in with C1. So you can see the colors I'm using. I was really just experimenting because I really didn't know how I wanted this to look. So I just was experimenting with some of the browns that I had previously used until I got the color that I thought looked decent. I've never colored ice before. I mean, technically, I probably could have left it more along the gray look, but when you mix ice with coffee, it kind of has a brownish look to it. So that's what I was going for. So I used the same greens I used in the previous stamp to color up the lid. Used the same color pinks for the straw. So again, all the colors in both stamp sets are all the same. So all of those colors will be linked down below. I'm also going to be bringing in the donut to stamp set, and I've stamped out the small donut 3 times from that set. So that set has a larger donut and a smaller donut. I'm using the very miniature sized one. Using the same pinks again for the frosting, and then I'm going to come in with some of the same browns for the actual cake part of the donut. So those 2 colors, that E21 and E23, I always find I have to do the tip to tip method to get a better blend between those 2. So that's what you saw me doing there. The middle donut will have green frosting, again using the same colors that I've been using all along. The cake part will be the same color. And then for the third donut, I'm going to color it pink. So I'll have 2 pink donuts and 1 green donut. The donut to stamp set has a stamp that is frosting, so I'm just going to ink it up in some guava ink, and I just stamped it down onto the green donut. I'm also going to be using the Doily 2 die set. I die cut it out of some of this pattern paper. It does have like a checkerboard or like a crisscross type of pattern on it. It's very subtle. But if you recall from a previous video that I used this particular die in, it actually cuts out various layers to the doily. And I'm not actually going to be using all of the layers because the middle part's going to be hidden by the coffee. I'm going to be putting the coffee cups on top. So I do back that up on some powdered sugar cardstock, and I'll just save those other pieces for another card. And you can see how I'm going to be positioning the coffee. That doily is going to go off of the side of that pattern paper. I am using the sprinkles pattern paper. This was from, I believe, the Love You collection from a while ago. And I go ahead and put that doily on there and then just snip off the ends. I do stamp out the sentiment onto this scalloped rectangle die cut. And I'm going to go ahead and add that to a candy card layer. That Love You paper is measured 4 by 5 1/4, and then the candy cardstock is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I am bringing in one of the hearts from the stamp set and adding it there to the top. Gluing down the coffee, I do put foam on the one that's going to be on top just so it's popped up a little bit. I decided to stamp out another heart and just put some foam on the back of it and just add it directly to the top of the previous heart just so that one has some foam and dimension to it as well. That is going to be added to an A2 size card base that I cut out of some powdered sugar cardstock. And then I'm going to do the inside of the card. So I'm going to use another piece of the Sprinkles pattern paper, this time in pink, and I cut that down to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I've already stamped out everything that I want to be on the actual inside. So I used the ampersand at the top and the word donuts at the bottom. Those were from the letters for letter tray. And then I'm using a scalloped circle that I cut out of some mint chip cardstock, and then a stitch circle that I cut out of some powdered sugar, and I'm just layering those donuts on to the middle of that circle. So this card is going to say life begins after coffee, and then when you open it up it's going to say and donuts. I think that turned out super cute. So go ahead and add that there. And then I'm going to take my black marker and just put 3 dots at the end of the ampersand sign, and then I'm going to glue that into the inside of my card base. I just love how this card turned out. I think it's super cute. I do add a few epoxy dots there in pink, and that will complete this card. So here are some pictures of the final card, the front and the inside. And then moving on to my next card, I'm going to be coloring up 3 of these coffee stamps. So again, Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth cardstock with some Memento Tuxedo Black ink. But this time I'm not making these look like coffee. I wanted to make these look like milkshakes. I love ice cream, and again, when I saw this particular coffee cup or coffee stamp, my head immediately went there, that I'm making this into a milkshake. You can also make this into an icy. Think that would be super cute as well. So I am going to be using 3 different color or 3 different flavor milkshakes on this card, and I am going to be making a slimline card. So my first milkshake is pink, and the pink colors that I'm using are RV02, RV04, and RV06. I do use a white gel pen there on the right side just to add a little bit of an accent, and then I'm also going to be coloring the straw pink. I'll be using the same blue colors that I used in my previous card, the B00 and B0000, for the actual plastic part of that cup. And then I'm moving on to my next milkshake. This one is going to be purple. I'm laying down my lightest color all over the whole thing, which is V12, coming in with my dark on the edge there, which is V17. And then I'm going to come in with my V15 right over top of that and just extend that a little bit towards the middle, and then come back in with my lightest color just to blend all of that out. And just a color over top of the lightest color that I put down initially. Just going over that a few times just to get a good blend. And then the straw is going to be the same color. And then just like with the previous milkshake, we're going to do the blue for the plastic top. Now I'm leaving the whipped cream plain. I'm not coloring any of that because I'm actually going to be coming back in later on and putting some sprinkles, like real sprinkle shaker embellishments, onto that whipped cream, and it's going to have a nice texture and dimension, so I don't need to worry about doing any coloring to that whipped cream. And wait till you see the finished look. Oh my gosh, I just fell in love with how that's going to look. So stay tuned when I get to that. That will be the very end of this video. So here I'm coloring in, making a mint chip milkshake. So I'm going with the greens. The greens are G20, G40, and G12. After I color in the straw and the cup and the top of the cup, I'm going to come in with a very thin black marker and just add some little chocolate chips throughout the entire milkshake. Oh my gosh, I love mint chip. Mint chip is my favorite ice cream. So of course I had to include one that is mint chocolate chip. So I'm using the Plaid Stencil. This I think was with a previous class that the Stamps of Life had. And I sprayed it with some Pixie spray just so that it stays on top of that cardstock and doesn't move. If you don't have Pixie spray, you can just use some washi tape. And I'm using some guava ink just to ink that stencil up. Since that stencil does not cover the entire length of that cardstock layer, make sure you don't go over the edge of that stencil. Otherwise, you're going to have a harsh vertical line, and that would not be pretty. So the cardstock is the Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I cut that down to 8 1/4 by 3 1/4. And I always use the Bristol Smooth cardstock when I'm doing ink blending like this. It just goes on much smoother. So I'm also going to be bringing in the Sweet Statement set. That's this word die that you see here. I die cut the shadow layer out of the mint chip cardstock and then the top layering word out of the guava, trying to use the same colors that I have in my stamped images. So just layer those on. I am using the Treats for You sentiment that came with that Sweet Statement set. There are several sentiments included, and that's the one I chose to use. I am going to layer that onto a piece of mint chip cardstock. I just trimmed that down so that it fits the size of the sentiment. No specific measurements there, just trim it the best you can. Layering that entire plaid panel onto a piece of mint chip cardstock that measures 8 3/8 by 3 3/8. And then that's going to be layered on to a slimline card base. The slimline card base is 3 1/2 by 8 1/2, and I cut that out of some guava cardstock. So the slimline card base, if you take an 8 1/2 by 11 sheet of paper, cut it to 8 1/2 by 7, score it at 3 1/2, you have your card base. So here I was just laying everything out the way that I wanted it. So I have 2 milkshakes on the right, and I'm going to have the pink one on the left. I'm going to have the sweet in the middle, and then the Treats for You right underneath. So I'm just gluing everything down. I do put some double-sided foam adhesive tape on the back of the mint chip one and pop that down on top of the purple one. I just wanted to have some dimension and be raised up in front of the purple milkshake. So I'm going to go ahead and add the word sweet there, and then add the Treats for You. And I'm tucking a little bit of that sentiment right underneath. So here are my fun shaker pieces. These are so much fun because they look like little candy pieces. So what I've done is I've actually separated and taken out the actual sprinkles. These shaker bits have they look like peppermints as well as sprinkles mixed in. And I've taken out just the sprinkles out of those shaker bits. So I'm taking some glossy accents and I'm adding the glossy accents to the whipped cream. And after I coat the whipped cream with the glossy accents, I come in with my purple sprinkles that match my purple milkshake, and I just add them right to the top of those glossy accents. And I'm just using my little pokey tool just to kind of move them so that they're not right on top of each other, and they're kind of spaced out nicely. I might come back in with some more glossy accents to fill in any holes that might be left. And I'm going to go and do the next one. So I'm going over to the mint chip milkshake, covering that whipped cream with the glossy accents, and then taking those green sprinkles and adding them directly to the top of that whipped cream. So some of them are touching and I want to kind of move them around, so I'm just using my pokey tool just to kind of move them around. And these will dry clear. So the glossy accents, it will dry clear with dimension. Make sure if you are using glossy accents, do not shake the bottle because you don't want to get bubbles in it. And if there are any bubbles when you squeeze this onto your whipped cream, just take your pokey tool and just poke those bubbles to kind of get rid of them. So here I just zoomed in just so you can see a little bit better. You can see how nicely it goes on, just like you're coloring the whipped cream. And then just take your sprinkles, sorry about my hand there, and then just add the sprinkles to the top. But you can see what that looks like. And then just move them just so that they are on that whipped cream. And again, after you've added them, let them sit and dry for a few minutes, and you'll see that the glossy accents and the sprinkles, they start settling, and you might find that you want to add some more glossy accents just to get a little bit more dimension. That's up to you. I end up doing that for mine, but when this is completely dry, it will actually, the sprinkles will be part of that milkshake. Like, you won't be able to even get them out of there. They're stuck in there. And again, they add so much nice dimension to this card. So then I take a few of the purple peppermints that are also part of these sprinkles and just add some glue and add them to the front of that card. I will add links down below to these products in case you're interested in them. So here's my completed card, and you can just see all the dimension in that milkshake. I just love the way this turned out. I wish you guys can see this up close, because up close it just looks absolutely amazing. So if you like this video, please give me a like and be sure to subscribe for more card making tutorials from me. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought of this video, and thanks so much for watching and have a great day. Bye-bye.